Welcome to today's online seminar hosted by the Ministry of Culture. Currently, Thailand produces a wide variety of content: film, series, animation, and games. Today, we'd like to invite representatives of 4 major digital content industries in Thailand to talk about Thailand as a hub of film and digital content. Please welcome Dr. Sorajak Kasemsuwan, Secretary General of the National Federation of Motion Pictures and Contents Associations. Mr. Nop Damawanit, President of the Thai Animation and Computer Graphics Association. Mr. Chuladit Sunti Tholani, representative of the Thai Game Software Industry Association. And Ms. Natapon Kanjaluk, representative of the Thai Association of Broadcast Professionalism. Welcome, everybody. Now, obviously, the profile of the Thai digital content industry has risen dramatically internationally in recent years. Thai films have won festival awards and found international markets. Thai television is extremely popular across the region. Thai animation companies have created animation for the major Hollywood studios. And games produced in Thailand are played across the world. Whenever we discuss the current state of the industry, it's almost as if we have to consider 3 time periods. In the first, we can look at the achievements prior to COVID. Then, of course, we met the challenges of COVID. And then, hopefully, we can look ahead at how the industry emerges from COVID. So let's start with the period up until COVID. I'm going to ask you one at a time to give a brief overview of your respective sectors of the industry up until the time the world got disrupted. Let me start with Dr. Sorajak.
Well, I think we produce something like in the region of 67 to almost 100 feature films a year. They are both production house companies, films, and also independent films. And they are most of them are released domestically, but many of them, quite several of them, have been shown in international festivals and around the world. Although the number of Thai films being shown outside the country are not that many yet, but I think the number of them being shown, especially in the region, was growing very, very encouragingly. A lot of our films were being shown in China, for example. The production, there were even increasing co-production between Thai film company and Chinese film company. So it was going very healthy indeed until the things struck us. Of course, we had to stop all the production. And the first surge of COVID in 2020 was not that long, it was brief, and we were very grateful that during the pandemic in 2020, our association and the Ministry of Culture were working very closely in trying to keep the spirit of the people in the industry going.
I mean, what is interesting is, of course, you must have wanted to maintain production.
Yes.
And yet, of course, the tricky thing was how do you continue to produce, yet keep it safe for the crew and stop the spread? How have you managed to achieve that?
I think it's probably common in many other countries as well, that most people working in the film industry are freelancing. So it's very difficult for them to, when the productions are all shut, for them to have earning. But as I said, luckily in 2020 it was very brief. I think everybody tried to work as hard as possible to compensate the time lost. And then we were very hopeful again.
I think we hoped it was all over and we could get back to normal.
Yes, and we managed to have our annual film award ceremony. And then after April, we were struck by the second surge and now the third surge. And this is getting terrible. It's not only the productions that are suffering, but theaters are suffering as well because they are all closed. And even if we have movies, we don't have theater to show, and theaters don't have movie to show. So we are very resilient people. We bounce back very easily. But the problem is that because of COVID, people turn to streaming so much. Incredible number of people who, like myself, who have been somewhat against streaming, because I think movies have to be watched larger than life. People might find it difficult, or they might be unwilling to go back to the theaters again. So I think both the Thai film industry and the theater in Thailand, we have to work very hard to find a way to get people back to the theater.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you on some of those issues, but thank you very much. Kun Nop, give us a brief overview of the animation, visual effects, computer graphics industry. Where were you? How were you doing?
Many of the audience probably don't know Thai animation industry that much, right? But we have a really long history. We start, our animation history started like 40, 50 years ago. Almost as old as Japan, yeah. And we continue developing since. We have a lot of new animation studio. We have really mature outsourcing industry for animation, and also we have not as many as I like, but we have a lot of animation feature produced in Thailand and become really successful. And for the visual effects industry, I think we have quite a good reputation on that, because I think it's developed with the film industry and also the advertising industry. We have very steady growth, almost 5 to 10% each year, and it's become really, really popular among the students to, as one of their quite favorite subject to learn in the university as well. I saw some research that said that we probably have the most successful education on animation and computer graphics in Southeast Asia. That's before COVID.
One might think from the outside that as opposed to the problems of Dr. Sorajak with film productions, where you have to have a massive crew and people all in one set, that animation may not suffer in the same way.
We have to separate the industry into two groups. Of course, animation is quite a we're doing most of this is outsourcing, and it's quite a long contract, right? So we have time to adapt. We managed to, start work from home, and we really successful doing that. Our production is slowed down for just like a couple weeks, and then everything is back to normal. And I think we get more work during pandemic, because I think there's some industry or some outsourcing country that maybe not quite as good as adapting.
Thank you very much. Kun Jun, yes. From the point of view of the games industry, tell me what you've been up to, or your achievements of the past decade, which are significant,
yes.
and of course how you've been affected.
Okay, actually, most of the people in the world may not know about the Thai game studio Marche until the coming of mobile games. So the mobile game is the game changing for the Thai developers, Thai game developers, because we can access to the more easier SDK and technologies, and we can access the same technology that you have in the other country in the world. So as before COVID, the Thai game industry, it has a lot of many of independent studios and also a big studios in Thailand. And one thing that you have you might never know before is Thailand market for the game is the biggest market in Southeast Asia. During the COVID is might affect to our industry a bit because it's hard to find the funding same as the movies industry because as a independent developers they are looking for the angel investor, but the angel investor is himself he might not confident to funding for the games. But for other studio, we have a hard situation to work together, because game is about having fun. It's not just having fun to, once play the game, but it's having fun during the producing and during the production. So we lack of that because we have to stay away from each other. So this is during the COVID. But luckily, my industry doesn't like movie industry. My industry is always online, and Thailand has the online infrastructure, the best online infrastructure. I think I think each area in Thailand can access a high-speed internet, so you can work from anywhere. In Thailand, you can. Sometimes I work from the forest. I have to say to my team, okay, we gonna be work from anywhere about a year, and we found that some of our teams more happier. They can live with their parents. They can go back to the countryside.
I think maybe more than the other industries. There are many examples of small companies who've come out with one game, like an Angry Birds or a Candy Crush, and they've even affected the economies of their country. There's this opportunity. Have we yet seen a sort of a Thai breakout game that's gone worldwide, or are we still waiting?
Yeah, we have a long history. One of the title that not much people know is Unblock Me. It was produced in Thailand, Thai studio. It's very famous in iOS store, App Store. We have Home Sweet Home. It's really famous in Steam Marketplace. We have a lot of Thai title that hit to the international market already. But we never say that we are Thai, because I think the game industry is the game market is like an international tasted. So we have to produce to serve to the international tasted.
Excellent. Well, I'll come back to you again, but let me move on to Miss Nataporn. Tell me about the television industry in Thailand.
Okay, so pre-COVID, just like you said in the beginning, Thai drama series have been super popular, not only in Thailand, not only in Asia, but all over the world. There's many digital channels here in Thailand, and also there's many new OTT platforms that launched in Thailand as well. Some are from Asia, some are, Hollywood. Many of the Thai series, have been recognized internationally, have been getting recognitions or receiving awards. And Thai talent as well, Thai actors, Thai actresses, they have fans all over the world. There's a lot of market for Thai content, a lot of international buyers that, attending markets or come to Thailand to, compete, to get the best Thai content for their countries. And they're starting to have more international co-production for Thai series that serve international market. For example, Thai and Chinese production company, for example. And I think with Thai content, it's kind of like when you talk about Thai food. You know, so many people around the world love Thai food. There's so many varieties, you know, of dishes. Thai content is pretty much the same. You can find everything from, you know, kind of like soap opera style that people still love, not only in Thailand, but, you know, Southeast Asia. And you can find, you know, really cool thriller kind of content, sophisticated production. So that is, you know, our pre-COVID life update. Yeah.
And then COVID.
I think we were just so shocked because we're not like them. We work outside. We work in, I mean, minimum 50 people on set, you know, every day. So we were shocked. But the first thing is the safety of our casting crew. So first we stop, then we group and figure out, you know, how do we do it safely. And then we start by, you know, minimizing the number of people on set. Everything has to be, you know, clean. There's rapid tests that you can do before you entering the set. And then things started to get a little bit better, you know, I think at the end of the year. So things were kind of back to the new normal, I say. And then now, it stopped again, but we can manage to do some smaller productions. But yeah, I think once we all fully vaccinated, things will go back to the new normal, as I say. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to now sort of focus on your individual sectors of the industry, and again start with Dr. Sorajak. I think it's true to say that even a couple of decades ago, a small independent production company could make 1 or 2 films a year. They could release in Bangkok, but also in the suburbs and around Thailand. And with the VCD or DVD market, they could make a film, get their money back, make another film, and they could keep going like that. The stakes seem to have been raised, partially because of the amount of marketing money and PR it takes to launch a film. And I think it's true that we've been seeing a greater proportion of the box office being taken by a few big films. Do you think it's become harder for the small independent companies to find, to make money, to be able to continue to make films?
Yes, in the sense that if you are really a small independent company, filmmaking company, you will find it difficult to find funding. And a lot of them have to get bits and bits of funding from various sources, home and abroad. And once they manage to get that done, and then it's a question of distribution. The chance of distribution domestically is very minimal. So in that way, I would say very difficult for independent film company to flourish very much. But I think both in MPC, my organization, and Ministry of Culture, I think we both realize that independent filmmakers are part of the backbone of the industry. You were talking about DVD and things like that. It doesn't exist anymore. So you can't hope for that. So hopefully we will have support from both the Ministry of Culture, the government, and both the major theater companies to let independent films being shown in all regions of the country. And we made that conditional upon independent films being eligible for the Thai Film Annual Award, that they have to be shown in all the 4 regions of the country, including Bangkok. Because in the past, many of them get film awards.
Yes.
But then people said, I never heard this film before. What is it? And they start to lose confidence in the film awards, in the National Film Awards, because they thought, gosh, what they're doing? They're giving award to what? Nonsense.
to be fair to the National Film Awards, they say exactly the same thing about the Oscars in America. But I think it's very interesting what you were saying about how many of the new trends and style and artistry and culture of films comes from independence. Because, of course, Apichatpong Weerasethakul has a film in Cannes.
Yes.
And he has always produced independent films.
Yes, absolutely. But you see, when Apichatpong won his first award in Cannes, and his film was shown in Thailand, no one knew him. Very few people heard of him. Even if when he won the National Film Award in Thailand, people said, who the hell is he? So we have to correct that.
Yes.
I think that needs correcting.
Now, of course, you're absolutely right that we have more opportunity than ever before to access international films. And that's also, that has a downside too. I think many film industries around the world have a tough time competing with the Hollywood blockbusters. Because let's face it, they spend $200 million on a film or more. That's nothing anymore. And they have tie-ins with fast food companies. They market them internationally. And there's always a question, and this is not just Thailand, as I said, but in many, many countries in the world, is how can you compete? How can you beat Hollywood?
I don't think we're thinking in the term of beating them off. I think there's no point thinking that way at all. I think as Gunathon was saying, Thai content, like Thai food, is exquisite. We have our own way of life, our own way of storytelling. We just try to do our best. That is the best thing to do. We should not compete with Hollywood or even Bollywood. But we do our best based on our exquisite nature, the Thai nature. But at the same time, to be more successful internationally, it's not only the film industry to go on all alone. We have to join hands, with animation, with game, with the television, to work together so that our content will go as a package.
Now, of course, it was massive news, and it was very significant when Bad Genius got a major release in China and earned over $40 million at the box office. And for a lot of people, that seemed like a new opening, a new market. How has that gone? How has that evolved? How is the international market now for Thai films?
I think we are all now looking at China as our potential market. If we can make films like that, a film that has a very, very interesting story, film that actually can hit the emotion of the audience, film that is fun to watch. If we can have that, I think Thai films can be shown anywhere successfully.
Now, you mentioned it earlier, but I'd like to go back a little. Just as you said, the idea of watching a massive blockbuster film on something the size of this was always rather strange to me, but we've all been doing it. Are you worried that the habits of people will have changed? Do you think that people will be going back to the cinemas?
I think it's very important for our industry to work very closely with the cinema owners to make sure that cinemas are more attractive than ever. Not only the techniques and things, we have to make sure it's fun to go to the cinema. It's really fun, not just for new dated couples to go and watch it, and after they get married, they never go back to cinema again. It has to be a fun place for you to go anytime, anywhere. We have to campaign that movies is something to be watched bigger than life. Whether it's a cinema or a drive-in cinema, it doesn't matter. But it has to be bigger than life.
Thank you. Well, look, sometimes when I go to the cinema, when I did go to the cinema to see some of the big films, and I'm one of those guys who likes to watch all the credits and don't go till everybody else has left. And quite often, I will end up seeing Thai names on the credits. And very often, it's because of the animation and visual effects. And so I'm going to turn to Kun Nop. And obviously, it's a tremendous testament to the Thai skills that we see these Thai names and companies appearing on the credits of big films. Although that's great, are you happy with that? Or would you like to see more companies producing their own IP from their own ideas?
Of course, see our name in the credit is a good feeling, right? You see the big name of yours across the screen. Yep, and we have a lot more of that on both sides. Like Thai talents go abroad and working on a big studio, or even Thai studio that have a chance to do all those kind of big film. But of course, that's good. But yes, we totally agree that we rather see Thai IP to be shown internationally. Thai animation IP is quite challenging. If you look at the structure of the country that successfully developed their own IP, they have a really good this we call ecosystem. So they have like a lot of local support, government support, and a lot of opportunity on the local side. And also they have talent. They have other opportunity like supporting industry like game, like toys, or licensing, something like that. Our ecosystem may be not that well developed yet, but our association push. And in the near future, in the next couple of years, you will see Thai animated IP released in both feature and series, and both streaming and other kind of like broadcasting. Right now, what I know is about 4 to 5 international IP that have been developed at this moment.
Excellent. Now, do you think this is a particular area where the skills of Thailand could perhaps be supplemented by maybe some of the marketing or distribution of international companies, and where some of those skills could come together in co-production? Is there perhaps a particular opportunity for co-production in this industry?
Yes, I think that's a good opportunity for us, because as Thailand still considered as a outsourcing country, so we have a good production, but we probably learning how to create our own IP, or let's say storytelling and pre-production side. It's a good opportunity to learn how to develop and how to market the IP. There's a case that we have been successfully doing co-production, couple of cases like 2 years ago. I think that's a good opportunity to learn, and that we can notice that the studio has grown a lot from that opportunity.
Now, one of the problems, it seems to me, with outsourcing is that the companies commissioning this work, they're often very fickle and they're very price conscious. I remember a while ago, everybody seemed to want to go to Korea, and then I was told that Korea got more expensive and it moves on. Is it a worry of yours that a country like India might be able to develop their skills and undercut Thailand, and that a lot of your outsourcing work will disappear? How much are you a victim of sort of price?
I think everybody is a victim of the price, but I think the reason Korea that not the outsourcing place anymore, because they have their own IP, and then they, studio capacity has been occupied by the IP, their own IP. So we hope to do the same in Thailand, but to do outsourcing, I don't think it's, they just the price conscious. There's a lot of things to consider more than just the cost, right? The style, the work ethic of the artist, the pipeline of the studio, like how they know all the process, liability, and of course the flexibility of the studio. I think Thai studio they run by very passionate people, and they really aim to the best quality, and they really flexible when it's come to the production. So I think we still a good place to work with. And of course, come to Thailand. It's better than anywhere else in the world, I think.
Yeah, we'll all testify to
Right.
that, I'm sure. Jun,
Yes.
now your association has grown over the years very much in importance, in strength, in numbers,
Right.
to the point where recently you rebranded.
Yes,
You used
right.
to be known as the TGA.
Yes.
Tell me why that rebranding and what that signifies.
Okay, we're thinking about to make a cooperation to the other parties more wider, such as governments, e-sport association, and also the animation association and others. And that's why we rebrand. And we want to make people in Thailand also more understanding about the game industry, because most of the Thai people, they think about gaming is just like a play, cannot be a career, a real career in the real life. But actually it's not, because right now the game industry, I mean the software game industry around the world is the biggest industry. I think sorry to say that, bigger than movie industry already.
Yes.
We have a lot of money around the world, especially in the United States.
Now, of course, the technology has evolved enormously from old big sort of console things where you stuck in cartridges through to online and PCs and then mobile games. Where's the future?
I think the subscription games, like streaming games, and also mixed realities is going to be our next big thing in the
Tell
near
me
future.
I'm sorry, but tell me what mixed reality is. I have no idea.
The mixed reality is that you can enjoy with the visualize of the, I mean, like the games in the real world. It's something like you might Pokemon or Pokemon Go or something like that. If you ever seen the movie like a Ready Player One, it's gonna be maybe like that. Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that was just a movie, and now it's coming real. Now, what percentage of your industry, we were talking about outsourcing earlier, what percentage of your industry would you say is dealing with outsourcing, and what percentage is creating original IP?
I think for outsourcing maybe about 70%, and our own IP about 30%. So, but it's going more bigger.
Are you happy with that? Is that the way you'd like it to be?
It's hard to say, but I'm happy because we have to actually Thailand is I think it's just beginnings of this kind of industry. So we have to learn a lot from the other country. I think it's okay to have a big game from China, a big game from Korea, from Japan. At least we improve ourselves.
Now, when I shout at my son because he sits playing games 24 hours a day and say he should learn his maths or something, he tries to tell me that now professional gamers earn more than professional American sportsmen, and this is a real thing. And it's now
That's
called
real.
esports. How is Thailand doing in this world of esports?
We have some team that's really famous in Thailand. It's a Thai team, esport, and we go to compete around the world. Yeah, we have.
I'm going to turn to Ms. Natapon, representative of the Thai Association of Broadcast Professionals. So I'm going to ask you about the television industry. And of course, in recent years, we've seen, I think, revolutionary changes in television drama series. Mm-hmm. There used to be a time when film stars wouldn't appear in television.
Right.
And it was seen as very different worlds. Mm-hmm. And I think, there are many companies, mainly the Netflixes, the HBOs, who have changed that. And so how is that changing the production in Thailand? Are we starting to see higher production values in Thai drama series?
I would say that, Thai crew and Thai actors, they are capable of doing, high production quality content. Thai film, for example, have super, super high production quality. And what difference is that you see a lot of crew members who used to work only on feature film start to work on, drama series. So you might see like shift in, style. But at the end of the day, it really depends on the script and also the broadcaster, the platforms, what kind of content do they want?
Obviously Netflix has been ramping up production in Thailand. We've recently seen Disney Plus launch here.
Right.
But I think what you're saying is that we might end up seeing different levels. We might still see local productions made in a more traditional way, and a sort of different level of a higher, more expensive production. Am I right?
I think at the end of the day, it is the choice of the producer and the platforms. I mean, for soap opera drama style, obviously we want to make it look really, really expensive, like, the Hollywood series style. But at the end of the day, the way we shoot the production period and stuff, it's very different. So we are flexible, we work with what we have, but obviously we will see much more high production value, series that are produced. I wouldn't say produced for, international platform, but at the end of the day, we want to own our IP. So I'll say they'll buy our IP. Yeah.
We've seen Disney Plus launch very recently in Thailand. And there's one production I know of that's going to be a Thai production. That's going to be one of the first Thai productions on this new Disney Plus service. Tell me about that.
So the series is called Extraordinary Siamese Story, Eng and Chang. So it's about Siamese story. It's going to be on Disney Plus Hotstar, and actually the IP is owned by Thailand. So I think this is a good example where you create really, really good content, and at the end of the day, people will fight for it. People will like, I want this content. I'm willing, okay, you can own the IP. I want it on my platform.
Now, I have to ask you something that I didn't know existed until recently, and I think a lot of our audience won't know about, is something called a Series Y.
Right.
Please explain that to us.
So Y series is can be called BL series or boy love series. So you can tell boy love. So the main characters are men or boys, and it started in Japan. But then Thailand started to, produce very high production quality boy love series where, the story is just very sophisticated, and it's just not niche anymore. Like everybody, watch this kind of content. And for example, the very famous is called Together the series, and it's not only famous here in Thailand, but it went everywhere. Yeah, so from what I know is that we produce almost 100 Y or BL series per year, and a lot of countries competing to, buy our content. Yeah.
Now, as we bring this session to an end, I'd like to sort of jump into the future, to a time where COVID is just a horrible memory, and we're all back to a not even just a new normal, but a real normal.
Right.
And I'd like to give you each a chance to just briefly tell us where you'd like to be, where you think we will be, what should be our aims.
Although I mentioned that streaming is a threat to theaters, it's not a threat to movie making as such. So from our point of view, from Thai movie making industry, I think we can look forward to bigger market, both on the streaming and different platforms, whichever company it is, and also we can look forward to having a new style of movie going, new style of fun in the cinema. Cinema will be different. and as long as people still going to cinema, then movies are still major part of our life. I think also that in the future, Thai movies, both on feature film release and both on streaming, they will have a lot more stories, different stories, because I think COVID, to start with, COVID is a source of so many stories. In Thailand, the passionate stories about COVID is plentiful. It can be source of hundreds of movies, and also in the future, I think we will understand more as we go into streaming more. We can understand international market more. What is required to make an international successful both on streaming and feature films. And also, I look forward to having Thai people saying, I like going to the independent movies. They are good. They are not incomprehensible anymore. Because people, very often Thai audience said, I don't understand.
ไม่รู้เรื่อง
I don't understand it all. What is it all about?
Thank you very much, Dr. Sorajak. คุณนบ
Yep. After COVID, I think we've seen COVID as a push and a big accelerator for us. Is create a more demand, right? Like I said before, more demand for animation, for all of the streaming service. And we also see a new way to do the production. Right now we heard a lot about virtual production, that we don't need green screen anymore. We just put CGI on the background like this and shoot it. And that's also part of the can create more work for the animation industry. And also, I think for the IP, I think that during the COVID period, we have a chance to, attend a lot of the festival and a lot of international market online. And I think it feels like the world is closer for us, and it's create a lot more opportunity and a lot more encouragement for IP creator in Thailand to say, okay, after COVID, I will definitely, go for it. So I think, yeah, it's come with, it's bad, but it's come with a lot of opportunity up ahead, and I think that's what we go for.
Excellent. คุณจุน
Yes, to me, I think about the future. I think, yes, we want to own our own IP. We want to own that Thai IP, and we want to see the success of the Thai IP.
Thank you very much. Ms. Natapon.
So obviously, post-COVID, I would love to see a lot more Thai local productions, come back. And obviously, I would love to see a lot of these content being, travel all over the world, whatever platforms that is. And we're looking for more international co-production as well, not just with Asian countries, but also, North American, European, Latin America. I think it's really fun working with Thai people because we're super creative and we're also very flexible. I think that's our strength, right? So yeah, it would be great to see international co-production, and then we own the IP or we share the IP as well. Yeah, that's my hope.
Well, I do hope that today's session has shed some light on what's happening here in Thailand. I fondly hope that the next time we all meet, it might actually be in Cannes. But until then, we'll have to rely upon technology to connect us. I'd like to thank all of our representatives for taking the time to come and join us today. And of course, I'd like to thank the Ministry of Culture for holding this event. And thank you for tuning in to watch. So thank you very much.